Nintendo. When you talk about video games, they're probably the first name that comes to mind. If not for them, it's very fair to say that games wouldn't be where they are now. They've created so many iconic franchises that are synonymous with the industry we love so much. Donkey Kong, Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, Metroid, all legendary franchises that have in more ways than one innovated gaming to what we see today. Nintendo just seems to understand game design in a more efficient way than all other developers. They've been stretching their hardware to their technical max for every console they've ever made. And I mean, think of all the iconic characters so many people have connected with. Mario Jumpman Mario himself. The portly Italian plumber that never fails to put a smile on my face. The hero of Hyrule Link. The mute protagonist that saved his world throughout time itself. Samus Aran. The badass female bounty hunter that said, hey, there's room for kings and queens here. And of course, Fox McCloud and the rest of the Star Fox team. I've talked about them enough, haven't I? All these iconic characters, and I haven't even gone into every single one of them yet. It begs the question, what would happen if you brought all these characters together? I mean, we as fans debate which of these franchises is the best, which of these characters is the best, etc. What if we had a game where these characters could just duke it out and decide who's the best both in and out of the game? What do you get if you asked Mario and Link to go toe-to-toe with one another to see who the strongest really is? Will you get something that's truly special? Super Smash Bros. It just makes all the sense in the world. Take these iconic characters, put them in a fighting game and let the madness ensue. Smash Bros. Is the pioneer of the platformer fighting game genre, a fighting game that emphasizes the platforming just as much as it does the actual combat. Rather than being stuck on a 2D plane where you go left and right, Smash Bros. Gives you free movement over the course of the entire stage. Instead of focusing on executing quick combos like a normal fighting game would, Smash focuses on creating combo from the limited moveset you have given to you. It's no surprise that Smash was an instant classic almost the moment it was revealed. Masahiro Sakurai, the lead developer for Smash Bros., has gone down in gaming folklore for his dedication to crafting Smash into what it is today. He's literally risked his life to make sure Smash can be the best it can be. You don't have to like it, but you certainly have to respect the hustle. Today though, I want to talk about what I believe is Sakurai's greatest achievement. The game that not only embodies everything he's about, but a game by every metric that shouldn't exist. A game that is the greatest celebration of our beloved industry. One that truly deserves the title it has. So I think now's a good time to go a bit deeper into how Smash works. Your goal is simple. Do whatever it takes to knock your opponent off the stage. Every character has a moveset that's relatively unique to them. Use these tools to beat down your opponent. Each character has roughly 17 different abilities at their disposal to take down their adversary. These abilities can range from standard melee combat such as punches or kicks, to special abilities like shooting a laser, charging up a heavy attack, and grabbing and tossing your opponent around. While it sounds simple, the brilliance of Smash Bros. Is how far you can take this admittedly basic moveset. Due to the nature of platformer fighters, the range of movement is exponentially greater than your standard fighting game. With all this space, it completely changes how I approach my opponent, how I defend against them, which area of the stage is best for the character I'm playing. It takes the fighting game genre and flips it on its head. It doesn't have to be a game of footsies or waiting for an opening to input some ungodly amount of buttons to execute the move you want to. Now you can slowly pile on damage, using the open space to your advantage, giving you the best opportunity to plan your strategy. If I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed, I can just run away, compose myself, and then go back on the offensive. But if you're the type of player that likes to go at your opponent with an all-out barrage, then yeah, go for it. If your adversary is trying to space you out, who says you can't close the gap to take them out? That's the brilliance of Smash Bros. You have this simple moveset, but combined with your imagination, you can take these moves to their hypothetical limits. One thing I will always appreciate are multiple options in gameplay. It's a huge reason I love turn-based RPGs. If I can engage with the gameplay in a variety of ways with the tools given to me, it allows me to freely express how I would do things if I was in this world. Maybe I'm being a bit dramatic, but it's just how I view games. This isn't to say you don't have options in traditional fighting games, but honestly, it feels like there's a clear blueprint to win. Smash Bros. Melee is the best example of what I'm trying to say. At the highest level, there's only about 3 or 4 characters in Melee that are actually considered good, and even then there's only one that stands out above the rest. Surprise, surprise, it's Fox McCloud. See, Nintendo, people care about Star Fox. Sorry about that. Fox is far and away the best character in Melee, and it's not even close. He's the fastest character in the game. Every single one of his attacks are viable. He has one of the best recoveries in the game, and a guaranteed combo starter with Shine. He's beyond broken. and easily the most enjoyable character to watch at the highest level. Going back to my original point, what makes Smash brilliant is shown in full force in Melee. To me, Smash's second entry has the best core gameplay in the franchise. It's fast yet smooth. Every move feels satisfying to land, and the idea of letting the player use a simple moveset in a multitude of ways is expressed brilliantly. I captured footage with two of my buddies, and we all happen to be Fox mains in Melee. We all played competitive Melee together, and we've played a lot of games over the years, and I mean a lot. But watching this footage, we all play the character differently. My buddy Brad here is definitely the most technical out of the three of us. He can use techniques that don't make sense. Seriously, every time we play he does something new that blows my mind. My buddy Mike is the all-arounder. He's excellent at gimping and can quickly turn a defensive situation into an offensive one. And when it comes to surviving, nobody's getting more out of a stock than Mike. And me? Well, I'm a bit of a heavy hitter. I can't compete with my friends in terms of speed, so instead I choose to maximize individual attacks, prioritizing my smash attacks instead of combos. We all play the same character, but we all have unique styles that we've all seen minor success with. At different points in time, one of us would dominate the other two for a little while until eventually one person would overtake the other. This is all from a game with 17 attacks. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So if I think Melee has the best core gameplay, how can I say that Ultimate is the best Smash Bros? I mentioned earlier that Smash is a celebratory title of sorts. Sure, it's a fighting game at its core, but the amount of fan service put in these games is unrivaled. Beyond the multiplayer though, Smash has so much more to offer. Classic mode. Take a character on your classic stage-by-stage totem pole to achieve the highest score you can. Starting with Melee, we started getting more single-player content. Adventure mode. Take your character of choice throughout some of Nintendo's most iconic places with some unique gimmicks to boot, and so much more. So on top of having arguably the best multiplayer in a fighting game, we also have without a shadow of a doubt the best single-player content in the genre. As each title released, we saw even more added in. With Brawl, we got the Subspace Emissary, a full-fledged story mode in a Smash game. I mean a real full-fledged story mode. Totally interactive with exclusive areas using mechanics you wouldn't normally see. Did all these ideas land per se? Perhaps not, but the fact that there's even this amount of content in these games should say it all. Now that I've set the stage, where does the latest entry fit into all this? What does Super Smash Bros. Ultimate achieve that sets it apart from the rest? What does the latest entry do to earn the title Ultimate? How does a game even achieve Ultimate status? And where do you go from there? These are the questions I wish to answer today. Get yourself ready because we got a lot to cover.
Well, on to the next trial.
Let me tell you a funny story. I actually really disliked this game when it first launched. I was still in the competitive scene for Melee, relatively speaking, and it just kinda looked like more Smash 4, a game I don't really like. It was neat that every character was coming back, but at the time I was largely focused on the gameplay, and I wasn't too impressed. The problem stems from Brawl. After Melee took over the FGC, Sakurai, in my opinion, purposely made the game slower to ward off competitive play. People tried to make it competitive, but it didn't last too long. Smash 4 was more of the same. It did have a successful competitive scene depending on who you ask, but it was just Brawl without the tripping and it was a bit faster. So when I first played Ultimate, I was worried. Since I love this franchise so much, I was always going to pick it up, and my worries were somewhat validated. I played with my friends and I just couldn't figure out what worked, the best way to approach, the best way to edgeguard. I was lost. After I unlocked all the characters, I put Ultimate away for quite a while. However, over the last few years, I've come to really love what Ultimate is. All its peaks and valleys, its systems and gameplay, the fan service, just everything. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age, but as I played more and more with my friends, it just made sense. This really is the Ultimate Smash game, and really, it's not even close. First off, let's talk about Ultimate's gameplay. It's still taking the core from what Smash 4 had, which was the core of what Brawl was, but Ultimate has a few tweaks that are worth pointing out. Starting off, Ultimate is definitely faster when directly compared to the two titles that came out prior. It seems that with Nintendo working directly with event organizers in the competitive Smash 4 scene, Sakurai upped the speed in an attempt to create a more exciting fighting game environment. An environment where players can over the course of multiple trial and error sessions study and master a specific character with the limited tools given to you. While Ultimate may not have the ridiculous smoothness of Melee, the added speed introduces so much more options with your playstyle. None of the advanced techniques like wave dashing or L canceling make their return, but because you can move just that bit faster, you're able to string attacks together more consistently. The open space is utilized much better, emphasizing on-the-fly thinking, whether to go on the offensive or defensive, and encouraging risky plays such as going off the ledge to spike your opponent. It does what Brawl and Smash 4 couldn't, get you to think while you play. For the most part anyways. Now I can fully utilize my character's moveset to their full potential. It's one of the reasons Smash is as revered as it is. To give you a better idea, allow me to provide a few examples. If I play as Cloud, I have access to both short-range, combo starting moves, as well as a long-range projectile attack. So depending on how the match is going, I can either focus on rushing my opponent, not giving them any breathing room, prioritizing knocking them off the stage as quickly as possible, or I can focus on spacing my opponent out, picking up damage if my projectile lands, while also frustrating my opponent until they make a mistake. And that's just the surface level stuff. If I want to rush my opponent down, I can focus on dash attack so I can find an opening to unleash my cross slash on my opponent. As I space out my opponent, I'll whittle down their patience to the point where I can make them pay for it when the opportunity presents itself. Not to mention all the damage I can do with the Buster Sword in the air or off stage. And this is just one character. I'm going to give the full roster some love in a second, but to continue my point, I have more than enough tools to implement a wide range of strategies to achieve the same goal. It's like a puzzle. I have all the pieces on hand, I just need to fit them together. And this is just my interpretation of the character. Watch a pro in action and they probably play Cloud much differently than I do. On its surface, Smash Bros is exactly what it advertises. A platforming party fighting game with items from every franchise that's represented to add to the madness. But once you really dive deep into the metagame, when you really start to imagine the possibilities from your chosen character, it becomes fighting game bliss. It's the peak. No two players play the same way. Everyone has their own unique playstyle. That's just so cool. It bucks the trend of health bars and input execution and focuses on stretching the character to its limit. It's a system that encourages you to express your personality in your play. As an example, I'm pretty stubborn and hot-headed. In almost every game I play, I'm as aggressive as possible. Especially in fighting games, I have a thirst for victory that seemingly will never be quenched. Sounds familiar, right? That personality comes out in my play. I focus on heavy attacks. I want to smack my opponent off the stage as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I can calm my nerves for a second to calculate my path to victory. Watch me and my buddy Mike play in a Rob Ditto here. To the trained eye, you'll notice we're playing completely differently. While Mike is focused on setting up a combo to pile on quick damage, I focus on spacing, using my projectiles to my advantage so I can maintain the gap in distance while I come up with a different strategy. This is most prevalent in Melee, but in Ultimate, the nuance I always reference in my videos apparently is here, and it is perfect for the system present in the game. Once upon a time, I foolishly looked at what Ultimate does and scoffed because Melee just has this amazing game feel that's unrivaled in any other video game. Now though, I appreciate what Ultimate strives for. It lowers the barrier to entry so anyone can pick it up and eventually learn their own unique style. The speed leaves a bit to be desired at points, but its quick movement opens up a variety of different strategies, and honestly, it just looks so clean. Yeah, I haven't even mentioned how beautiful this game looks. For how much is in the game, I'm shocked at how well it runs. One day Nintendo's going to have to reveal their secrets on how to optimize games. For some reason, they seem to know how to find the perfect balance most of the time. It's nothing that's going to blow your mind. I mean, the online doesn't exactly work perfectly, but seriously, this is a really smooth game. Even if it's not as good as Melee from a game feel perspective, it's definitely nothing to scoff at. However, it's not perfect. There are definitely a few decisions made to Ultimate I don't agree with. Not to say that they're bad decisions, more so decisions I wouldn't have made. First off, I hate how you can essentially share the ledge with your opponent when you grab onto it. In Melee, if one person grabbed the ledge, they'd be given a few frames of invincibility and your opponent wouldn't be able to grab the ledge. This, in essence, created a whole new type of combat off the stage, where one wrong move could be your stock's demise. In Ultimate, anyone can just grab the ledge all willy-nilly. While it's not the game to introduce this mechanic, it's still kind of annoying to have included. It intrinsically makes ledge guarding less risky, in return making the reward not worth it. If I'm playing as Cloud, who has the worst recovery in the game, why would I edgeguard when I can just shoot his projectile which travels off stage? It's not like it makes things any less fun to at least try, but you lose a significant advantage as the person with command of the ledge, which rips away all the work it took to get them off stage in the first place. I also think Ultimate is just a little too floaty for my liking personally speaking, combined with the maneuvers a character like Sora has, and you won't even be touching the ground. This inherently makes the game slower, since you don't have nearly as many movement options in the air as you would on the ground. Not to say that aerial combat is bad, for some players it may be the preferred way to go about it, but with limited movement options in the floatier gameplay, it can sometimes bring the battle to a halt, which is the opposite of what you want in a fighting game. These are just minor nitpicks. I mean, they don't ruin the gameplay experience at all, and man, what an experience it is. Now that we've talked about the gameplay, I guess we should look at everything else that's in Ultimate, because it's here where I truly feel Nintendo reached a level that may never be reached again. First off, what's a fighting game without its roster? It's the backbone of any game in this genre. I already mentioned that every character from the previous entries return, along with some new clone variants, bringing the total to 76. I know there's technicalities like Pokemon Trainer counting as 3 fighters, but semantics. That's a whole lot of fighters, representing not only Nintendo franchises but other franchises in the industry. Solid Snake from Metal Gear Rising, Sonic the Hedgehog from Sonic the Hedgehog. Smash 4 gave us Cloud from Final Fantasy, and Bayonetta from the hit action series Bayonetta. What this did was break the metaphorical barrier between Nintendo and their competitors. No longer would Nintendo franchises be the only ones represented on the roster. Any franchise was hypothetically in contention. Sure, some Nintendo franchises get new additions such as the Inkling from Splatoon, but really the ones most of us cared about were the characters that came from franchises we once thought impossible. Sonic and Snake were just the beginning. Now, the possibilities are endless. I can only imagine who'll be next.
What? Smash Bros? Is this for real?
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, what else can I even say? It really doesn't get better than this. What more can you even ask for? Franchises all across the board are getting represented, from both Nintendo and third parties. You get entries in legendary franchises with the likes of Banjo and Sephiroth being added. Franchises like Persona and Xenoblade, relatively new in terms of popularity, earning their status in the pantheon of gaming with Pythra and Joker showing up. Long rumored and wished characters from as early as Brawl finally making their appearance with Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Like, what? This doesn't even make sense. How is something like this even possible? Say what you will about the game itself, but you have to respect the level of dedication the entire team behind Smash Bros. Ultimate had. It's insane. Could you imagine what every game would be like if they had the level of passion and love for their craft like Sakurai and his team do? And that's not even everyone. Hero from Dragon Quest, the pioneer of JRPGs. Steve from Minecraft, essentially creating its own genre in the medium. Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses, the game that brought eyes to a franchise once thought dead. After all the DLC characters released, the Ultimate roster grew to 89. I know, technicalities, but again, semantics. With a roster this wide, you'd imagine some characters would be underdeveloped in terms of their gameplay. Hell, you could even assume that most would be underdeveloped. Well, you'd be wrong because every character, and I mean every character, are fully fleshed out. And I'd go as far to say viable under any circumstance. It's kind of hard to explain it literally, so let me give you an example. When I play a fighting game, I tend to focus on one character, figure out what works about them, figure out my strategy with that moveset, and plan a strategy to maximize any damage output. So in Melee, I played exclusively Fox. I can play as other characters decently well, but I know Fox inside and out. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? For the longest time, I couldn't find a main in Ultimate. I just struggled for so long figuring out how to beat my friends. It's probably a big contributor as to why I wasn't a big fan of Ultimate at launch. Anytime I did start learning a character and picking up wins, my buddies would figure me out and body me. It wasn't until all of the content launched for Ultimate where it started coming together. I started playing more characters against my buddies. I never let them get comfortable with a certain playstyle. Sometimes I'd play as Cloud, other times I'd play as Joker, maybe I'd try Sora out for a game. You can see where I'm going with this. It's funny, when Brad, Mike, and I would hop online for a session, I never even really noticed it. I just happened to be playing different characters, and I'd achieve a moderate amount of success. It didn't hit me until Brad said some one-off comment that really stuck with me. It's the main inspiration for this video. It all made sense when I heard him say, "I wonder who you'll play as this time." It got me thinking, wow, I actually have a wide range of characters. I mean, I'd confidently say I'm pretty tough to play against with at least 5 different characters, and could probably give your average player a decent run for their money with another 5 or 6. This coming from the guy who prefers to focus on one character. I mean, that says it all. How do you craft a fighting game where every character can be viable at almost every level? I imagine some characters like Pichu wouldn't be considered good at the highest level, but around your friends who may watch competitive play? Yeah, anyone can work. If I feel like Mike's Rob is bodying my own, I'll just switch to Cloud and camp him out to piss him off. If Brad wants to move at breakneck speeds the entire game, I'll just pick a character to slow things down to neutralize his approaches. If I feel like I want to play a bit risky, I'll play as Joker since his recovery is a grappling hook. Having a repertoire of characters like this helped me realize the brilliance of Ultimate. Sure, it doesn't have the next level game feel that Melee does, but it takes the systems in place, adds in a record number of characters, and just runs with it. Most characters are fleshed out with mechanics from their appearances in their respective games. Joker's main persona is Arsene, so when you fill up the meter, you call upon Arsene to assist you in defeating your enemy. Cloud has a limit break meter he can charge by pressing down B or by dealing damage. When full, he'll unleash a stronger version of his buster attacks. Not all characters have the same level of depth as everyone else, but I mean some of these characters come from some really odd games. I don't really see what else you can do for Villager. His moveset fits. Guess I'm just easy to please. Remember, there's 89 characters in Smash Ultimate, and if you actually go through each one of them one by one, you'll definitely see how their moves were inspired from their respective titles. The fact they're all viable at some level is what takes it above the rest though. Smash is a series known for having 1, maybe 2 characters that dominate the rest. Melee has Fox and Falco. Smash 4 had Bayonetta. Smash 64 was all Pikachu. It's easy to see how this could get boring. If everyone's playing the same character, you'll see different styles as I mentioned previously, sure, but you won't see the rest of the content on offer. Don't get me wrong, my favorite matchup to watch, play, even study is the Fox Ditto in Melee. It's the best matchup in fighting games to me. Fox is just that much better than everyone else. But inherently, things will just get stale. When my friends and I play Fox Dittos all night, I often have to sit out for an extended amount of time due to how jaded I get after a while. It's not that it isn't fun, but eventually all the games start to mesh together and I find myself spacing out in the middle of a game, which results in me getting bodied, which results in me getting salty. In Ultimate, every game can be totally different, just because all the characters have tools at their disposal that can help them win. I can focus on stacking damage with Joker by using Aha until I find a moment I can capitalize on. I can neutralize projectile attacks when I play as Falco. I can focus on edge guarding when I play Rob. I could go on, but we'd be here all day. All you need to know is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has the best, most well-rounded gameplay in the entire franchise, and it's not even close. While Melee provides the most peak enjoyment, when I'm deciding which game I want to play with my friends on any given night, more often than not I choose Ultimate. It's just a lot easier to get into, and when you're warmed up provides quite a fun, competitive experience. And that's not even mentioning all the single-player content Ultimate offers. You thought I forgot, didn't you? I wanted to focus on the actual gameplay and systems on offer in Smash Bros. Because this is where I personally find the most enjoyment. I've been watching competitive Smash for quite a bit now. It's kind of hard to resist the urge to pick up a controller after watching something as hype as this. Since Ultimate has what I consider really solid gameplay, I wanted to make sure I highlighted and properly laid out why I like it so much. But it's only half the story. You really are getting your bang for your buck here. Each iteration of Smash added something new and unique to the single player content as I referenced earlier. But Ultimate? Jesus does it up the ante. Instead of just a preset or randomized assortment of battles, Classic Mode is tailor-made to each character. Play as Sephiroth and you'll only fight the brand new bosses Ultimate created from some of the franchises represented. Play as Sora and you'll fight a majority of the sword fighters in the game, representing Organization 13 from Kingdom Hearts. Play as Cloud and you'll primarily play on stages related to technology or space in some way, representing the steampunk setting Final Fantasy VII was in. It all culminates in a battle with Master, and on the higher difficulties, Crazy Hand in a frantic, difficult battle where you are at a severe disadvantage. I've never really cared much for Classic Mode. It's all well and good, but Ultimate's Classic Mode is, like the rest of the game, so fleshed out that I actually enjoy going back. Each character for the most part has an experience tailor-made for them. It's just like a mini story you can go through with your favorite character. I mean, I love Persona 5, so coming against quote-unquote Shadows as my adversary just puts a huge smile on my face. If you can get me to play a game mode I'd probably ignore, that should speak for itself. And that goes doubly so for Ultimate's take on the adventure mode, World of Light. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When I first played World of Light, I hated it. Like, viscerally. I would make it a point to criticize it anytime it was in any form of discussion. I thought it was too complicated for its own good. It ripped away the childlike whimsy I got just from running through the predetermined levels Nintendo crafted in the original adventure mode. I miss subspace, and even as a kid, I wasn't in love with Brawl's take on the adventure mode. Even when I was capturing the footage for this video, at first I was like, oh god, now I remembered why I hated this. But after a bit of time, a few deep breaths, and actually taking the time to play by the game's rules, I actually really enjoyed myself. World of Light acts as Ultimate's adventure mode. Your goal is to defeat the spirits and eventually their leader, the ultimate enemy, Galeem. The spirit fights are mini scenarios from different franchises across the entire industry. You'll be fighting against the characters you're all used to from the main game, though they're inspired by other characters across gaming. Sakurai here from a Fire Emblem game I'm not familiar with is represented by Isabelle with the unique ability to heal. Weezing is represented by Wario, where this stage will have a poison cloud for you to deal with. All sorts of funny little battles like this. It's a great way to pay homage to the many series represented in Smash. Having such a limited roster, especially at the beginning, really gets you thinking on which spirits to equip and which character to use. It helped that after a few fights I got access to the DLC characters I spent my hard-earned dollars on, so I had a few characters I was a bit familiar with. I did experiment with a few new characters though. I actually played a lot of Lucario for a majority of my time in World of Light. I found with his wide variety of moves in terms of short and long range attacks, I was able to tackle strong spirits on the board at a severe disadvantage in terms of the numbers. I found a group of spirits that fit his playstyle well, and I was blowing by spirits until I unlocked all of the DLC characters. So Brad and Mike, if you're watching, looks like you got another character to worry about next time we play together. And there's so much more. Your own custom stage builder. It's nothing too advanced, but it's cool that you can create your own original stage. The spirits mode, where you can train your spirits and learn which strategies work for you and your chosen character. I could go on all day. There's just that much stuff here. It really is something to behold. All of this combined really does give you the best overall Smash Bros experience. If you don't want to play with your friends because you're salty you got bodied so hard, there's so much here for you to play around with. These modes can act as small training sessions to improve your overall playstyle, but they're also fun little celebrations of the entire gaming industry. The classic mode is without a doubt the finest in the series, and while World of Light isn't my favorite adventure mode, there's a level of depth I find satisfying. Could all this be improved in the future? Of course it can, but if we only focus on what comes next, we won't appreciate what we have at the moment, which leads me to the main point of this entire video. To answer a very simple question, what comes next after Ultimate? How can you top a crossover game with this much depth and content? Is something like that even possible? I don't think it's any sort of a hot take to say we live in a fast food culture. In 2023, people are always clamoring for what's to come rather than focus on what they currently have. Sure, a game like Breath of the Wild, for example, will constantly be talked about years after its release, but after a while, people will start wondering, alright, what's next? Where do you go from here? It's the same with Smash, and I can't help but think that these people are kind of missing the point. Don't get me wrong, I'm right there with you. Having seen all the DLC reveals, what they would eventually add in, how they would craft these new additions, I'm curious too. But my curiosity for what's to come isn't enough for me to ignore my appreciation for the product Smash Ultimate is. Maybe it's because Smash is one of my favorite series and I have a bit of bias, but I can't help but just gush at everything that's on offer. I mean, if you're still here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the biggest, and I'd say best crossover game that's graced our beloved industry. Who cares what comes next? I've seen plenty of videos discussing the future of what's to come in Smash, and I can't help but wonder what the point is. For me, I always enjoyed watching videos where someone would speculate who'd be coming in the new DLC Fighter Pass in Ultimate, mainly because I wondered who was iconic enough to join such a legendary cast. I mean, I had no idea what Persona was before Joker's reveal at the Game Awards in 2018. Now, Persona 5 is literally my favorite game of all time, and I would have never gotten that had I not played Ultimate. Sora fulfilling the long-term promise from that old Smash poll. He just had to be the last character. Seeing Sora in Smash inspired me to go back and take a look back at one of my favorite series in Kingdom Hearts. And additions like Sephiroth helped me appreciate a piece of gaming history I once overlooked. I never played Final Fantasy VII as a kid, and playing Smash makes me want to give FF7 Remake another shot. You see what I'm getting at, right? Why focus on what's to come when you have something this special that's right in front of you? Ultimate, by all accounts, is a game that shouldn't even exist. Could you imagine the work Sakurai had to do? The amount of push he had to apply to get some of these characters in here? Let me give you an example. Sora is a character that has both Square Enix and Disney representation within its series. Imagine the amount of time and effort it took to discuss with whoever's in charge of these companies to get him into Smash. A few compromises needed to be made to get him in, but Sora is literally the most requested character in Smash history. Sorry to keep harping on it, but it's a true wonder how he was able to make it in the game. And it's not just Sora, almost all the third-party characters have some sort of story behind them. Like I mentioned earlier, Ultimate broke the barrier on who can make it into Smash, but the results were beyond my wildest imaginations. And that's something I'll always appreciate. And the game itself is loaded with a variety of content that for the most part I think is genuinely fun and well executed. There are problems. The online isn't great, not every character is represented as well as they could have been from their own franchise, and it's a tad floaty for my liking. But at the end of the day, Smash Bros. Ultimate is one of, if not the best fighting games out there, even if it's not your traditional one. Only focusing on what's to come takes away how special of a title Ultimate is, and I think that's unfair. So to answer the question, what comes after Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? I'd ask, does it really even matter?